Maybe YouTube doesn't want me to talk about this subject or something like that. I'm being thrown off for sure. Uh, well, YouTube is closing my live connection all the time. Apparently, it stops. It's stopped and then it begins to just send data out to nothing. Um, so this is the third video. So again, maybe YouTube is catching me in regards of because it's a satanic place in regards of. But you have 70 weeks, 70 weeks of time, the temple being destroyed, the city and the temple being destroyed, and then you have the last week at the very end. This is Daniel 9. The last year was 34 AD. Okay? It's done. It's over. And then afterwards, the prophecy goes into this, into the future outside the 70 weeks, talking about the city and the temple being destroyed. Happened in 70 AD by the Romans. And then it continues to talk about a future last week event, which is still future. That's the last in time week. And that's how it is. Maybe the Jesuits doesn't like that I'm talking about this because they've sown so much bullshit out there. It seems like I haven't heard anyone propose this, Like actually it's like either they take the end week here, the end week, and they fix it to the 70 week, or they take the 70 week and put it to the end week. And both of them are erroneous. Because people, it's a linear timeline. It's a linear timeline. It starts, it's they have 70 weeks completed, city and temple destroyed, and then the last week of time. A last week of time. A last 7 years of time, which is yet future. So don't take the week this week and put it over here, and don't take this week and put it over here. They're two different weeks. They're two different weeks. And no one is actually computing this. I don't understand why people can't compute it. Like, I haven't I haven't heard or seen anyone actually say that that's two. It's like either people will take this week, push it back into the 70 week, and say the 70 weeks are fulfilled, which they are. They are fulfilled. But they take this last week and merge it into the 70 week, this future week of time. They merge it into the 70 week and say it has been fulfilled. Like, what are you talking about, Like, this is for the end time, and the 70 week is in the past. And then you have the city and the temple being destroyed 70 AD, and then you have the last week of time. There you go. Now, apparently we are still running. YouTube haven't thrown me off yet and all that, but that's the thing, right? Daniel 9, 70 weeks, temple destroyed 70 AD, one in time week of time is left. That's where we are on the line of prophecy. Like when you look into the Babylonian, the Medo-Persians, the Grecians, the Romans, and then the second stage of the Romans. Like, it's a linear process, and we are at the second stage of the Romans at the moment. We are at the feet with iron and clay at the moment. So now we have in the future 10 kings that will come around, that will get their power to the Antichrist, and they will go up against up against Jesus, God, when he returns, and they will be destroyed, But anyway, that's still future. So, yeah. And those 10 kings doesn't have anything to do with the 10 horns where 3 of them are plucked up and one comes forward, because that's already fulfilled. You have to kind of understand prophecy, like, so. And just because something looks like it's the same, it might not be the same. So that's the thing in regards to the 1260 days. You have all these puzzle pieces that I haven't sorted out yet. Because half of a 7 week of time is 1260 days, 3.5 years, and 42 months. But you have all these different things talked about in the book of Revelation and the book of Daniel. And the things in regards of, juggling with all these balls in the air and all that, I haven't sorted further things out. But one of the things that makes you not be able to kind of get to that point, in regards to, is that you have all this misunderstanding in regards to Daniel 9. And that makes it very hard to, because you're kind of like, hey, you can't push the 70 weeks into the future. Give me a break with the bullshit. But then again, you can't take the last week and force it into the past either, and it's like people are doing either or, or other kind of nonsense of rubbish that comes from people. See if I can find. I was reading some of the things where it's like, oh, well, you have some things that are true, and yet they end up making a mess out of it anyway. It's like, so you have people that understand, yeah, of course you can't throw the 70 week into the future. It doesn't make sense. God is fixing a prophecy, and then you want to, throw it out into the future. What kind of prophecy is that? You have a prophecy of 70 weeks, and then all of a sudden you just, skip through 2,000 years on the last week to give me a break with the bullshit. Just rubbish. So you have people that understands that, but then the problem is that they tend to take the last week and then fix it into the 70 week, which of course then make, where people are saying, well, that's not, that's not no go, because that's about things of the Antichrist in the future, in regards of him, stopping the sacrifices and putting up an idol, and like Jesus kind of, didn't put an idol up, and he, like the sacrifices continued until the temple was destroyed and all that. So this is clearly about a future event, and it's just, it doesn't matter whether, it's like, it's just it's a madhouse. It feels like a madhouse with all these things, where it's like, I don't understand why people can't see it. It's just doesn't make any sense. So you have some groups that actually understand, yeah, this is about the Antichrist this last week here, but then they throw the 70 week into the future, but then they deny the fulfillment of the 70 weeks in regards of Yeshua dying for the sins of the world. But the thing is, they make it like a game either or. You either believe this or you believe that. But that's no. That's two different weeks. Like, this week doesn't have anything to do with this week. This week is a future week in the future, still future in the future. This one has been fulfilled in the past. You cannot just merge them together. And again, people either take this one, merge into this one in the past, or they take the past and they merge it into the future prophecy. This doesn't make any sense. Stop bullshitting around. So it just doesn't, it's just, oh, I'm on the wrong one. Okay, let's see here. Just looking for there we go, here. Here, let's see here. Someone writes here, if this is to happen in the future, that the last set of 7, then what sacrifice is being referred to, since Christians do not sacrifice anymore? Well, that's also an interesting thing, because actually that was one of the arguments, that, yeah, the temple would be built up again and sacrifices would be, done again. And this Christian was saying, well, it's not going to be the Christians building and fixing this, because we don't sacrifice and all. So it has to be the Jews that is going to come back and build the temple. Who would, who wants the temple up? Who is really wanting the temple up and wanting to commit to sacrifices again? The Jews, of course. So that was an argument I can remember in regards of a past Christian, long time back and all that, in history. But I can't remember which, the name of him. So talking about, yeah, the Jews would return at some point and build the temple. So he seemed to also have understood that the temple would be built at some point by the Jews again. But I wonder which guy that was that mentioned that. But yeah, and he was like, well, we Christians don't sacrifice, so it has to be the Jews that is going to do it at some point in the future. So anyway. So if this is to happen in the future, the last of 7, then what sacrifice is being referred to, since Christians do not sacrifice anymore? So, but it's just interesting taking me back in regards to this. Now, so I write here, sacrifices are going to start again. It actually already has in some sense, as they now practice and train for when the temple comes up. Now, who would that be? Well, who is training to sacrifice and have training of priest and all that? The Jews, of course. The Jews are training to sacrifice. They're already doing sacrifices at the moment. In just they're training them in regards to this. They don't have a temple or anything like that, but they are training in regards of these things. So you can see that on YouTube in regards of search on the Jews and sacrificing at Passover or something like that. You should be able to find things. So, and when it talks about the coming prince in regards of, well, that's the Romans. We know it's the Romans that destroyed the 70 or the temple in the 70 AD, or the city and the temple in 70 AD. So who is it continuing to talk about in the future week? Because we know the Roman beast continues until a future time. Well, if that's the case, well, then it's the Romans that continue. It's the Roman Antichrist. The beast of the number 666 is Roman. So here we have someone writing that he will confirm a covenant. No, he will strengthen a covenant. And that's also like a kind of a difference, right? Is he strengthening a covenant, or he is confirming a covenant, right? Because again, you could understand this as two ways. And it seems like that strengthening a covenant, he will strengthen in regards to the law of Moses, I would think. But anyway, either way, we're still talking about the Roman Antichrist in regards of he, in regards to, it's not the Messiah. It's still talking about the Roman beast and what they're going to do and all that, and they're going to stop the sacrifices in the middle of the week. So, and again, they clearly are going to sacrifice in the future at some point. So thereby a temple is going to stand. But anyway, he said, he will confirm a covenant with many for 1 week, and in the middle of the week he will cause sacrifice and oblation to cease. So in the middle of the week he will stop the sacrifices and the oblation in regards to what things that's also with the sacrifices. That is talking about the daily. He's going to stop the daily and sacrifices and the oblations to cease. In the middle of the year, and then the person makes a mistake. In the year of the 70 week. No, it's not the 70 week. Does it say it's the 70 week? No, it doesn't say it's the 70 week. It's the last week at the end of times. It's not the 70 week. And again, people will either take one or the other. It's just stupid. It's just bullshit. It's absolutely rubbish. So middle of the 70 week, on the eve of the Passover, Jesus of Nazareth said, "This is my blood and the new covenant, which for many is being shed unto remission of sins." It's like, and he just, I guess he forgot to also talk about that he will put up the abomination and all that, of course, which of course Jesus didn't do. So let's see here. So someone writes correctly, well, he says it is a deceptive covenant. Now, in regards to the covenant, whether it is a 7-year covenant that is being talked about, or actually just strengthening what the Jews already have of covenant, because again, how would the Antichrist trick the Jews? How would the Antichrist trick the Jews to think that he's the Messiah? Well, to strengthen the law of Moses, to begin to sacrifice again, right? To make the temple, to make them, to have them be able to sacrifice again and so forward, right? To strengthen the covenant. But anyway, so, but he says it's a deceptive covenant. So, but here he goes, the same he desecrates the temple, so cannot be the Lord. Yeah, it's the Antichrist. The last week, now whether in regards to the covenant and all that, if it's in regards to strengthening the covenant of Moses for 3.5 years, in regards of sacrificing and all that, and then stopping it like 3.5 years later, or whatever, or if it's like a covenant for 7 years, which makes them allowed to do in regards to the law of Moses. Whether this and that, it's still, yeah, he desecrates the temple, he puts up an idol, an image, he stops the sacrifices, and then he puts up the. So someone writes back to him, well, look at the Hebrew text because that is incorrect. The second he refers to another person separate from the first person, and judging by history, it seems the second he was Tiberius Caesar who destroyed the second temple. Yeah, and that beast continues, you see, but it's some confusion in it and some truth in it. And it's just a madhouse, it's just absolutely a madhouse because the Romans destroyed the city and the temple, right? We're not, no one is going to dispute that, right? It was the Romans who destroyed Jerusalem and the temple in 70 AD, right? That shouldn't be, that shouldn't really be a thing of dispute. So, if that's the case, then, and we know the Roman beast continues until he will have his in game, So why put it just like the thing is in regards of a prophecy, in regards of a king, in regards, they kind of one king in prophecy can be multiple people. So in regards of a beast, so, and we know the beast continues until the end. So anyway, when Jesus was in Jerusalem, he said that not one stone would be left standing in the temple, a fulfillment of both prophecy, of both his prophecy and Daniel's. Well, it was a fulfillment in regards of that Jerusalem and the temple would be destroyed in 70 AD. But yet there is another week in the future. So anyway, so again, so this guy writes back, and again, you have some truth, you have some, nonsense. So nope, the 7-year period allotted to the Jews is still future. I would agree. The end will come like a flood. Anyway, the same he who confirms the deceptive covenant also desecrates the temple, so cannot be the Lord, but from the people who destroyed the temple in 70 AD, which of course is the Romans. But I think actually, sadly, this guy that actually has it correct in regards of these things, or somewhat in regards of understanding further in regards to the last time week, I think he actually takes the 70 week and throws it into the future. So again, it's like, just give me a break, Furthermore, the Abrahamic covenant was already in place with the Jews at the time of Christ. They were sacrificing, I guess, at that point, so, yeah, so that kind. Anyway, and the other guy says, and if you actually read it, you would see that Jesus prophesied to bring in a new covenant. And they talk about it. As far as I recall, this guy, which actually thought, I think this was the guy that actually understood somewhat, that he understands that it's actually a last week. But I think he actually ended up throwing the 70 week into the future. And again, it's like, oh no, you gotta be kidding me, is it so hard to figure out that there's 2 weeks, that the 70 week is not the same as the last end week, is that so hard to understand? It's just, I think this is the guy that I actually, because he says that he researched this for 40 years, and I thought he actually understood something in regards of, so yeah, I wrote back to him, the last 7-year period is yet future, and the 70 week was fulfilled. So I wrote like 70 weeks completed, 33, 34 AD. Well, in regards of, I guess if you don't, the year 0 and all that is 34 AD. So 28 to 34 AD. Being the last year, 70 AD, temple destroyed as the prophecy goes beyond the 70 weeks. Last 7 years of time, which is yet future at the end time. And maybe actually some of the rabies. Maybe some of the rabies are actually when they say, well, some say that the 70 weeks goes into when the temple was destroyed in 70 AD and all that. Maybe it's just because they actually don't understand what people are writing. Because maybe like if one of the Jewish rabbis was to read what I just wrote, they might think that I think that the 70 weeks goes into the time of the temple, even if I'm thinking I'm pretty clear in regards to my wording. I'm writing 70 weeks completed 34 AD. This is 3 weeks ago. Being the last year. So the last year is 34 AD. Okay? 34 AD is the last week of the 70 week. It's completed. It's fulfilled. Jesus fulfilled it nearly 2,000 years ago. So, 70 AD, temple destroyed as the prophecy goes beyond the 70 weeks. Like, yeah, I would, maybe some of these rabbis would just say, oh, he's saying that the 70 week goes onto the temple and all that. It's like, that of course is not what I'm saying, but again, people will twist and turn and what not, in regards to what one writes, That's also something when I became Christian, I found out that just incredible how much twisting people can do, and like you say something and they will just take it, they will just totally mess it up, You write something that you think is pretty easy to understand and pretty straightforward, and then they will just totally rip it apart, in regards to the understanding. And you're just thinking, how in the world can, it's like, it's very diabolical, it's very clever, it's very, like, yeah. So last 7 years of time, okay, so let's see. So 70 AD, temple destroyed as the prophecy goes beyond the 70 weeks, okay? The last 7 years of time, which is yet future at the end time. So I'm fixing like a dividing line in regards to the tree, So the last dividing line is in regards to the last 7 years of time, which is yet future at the end times. Now, I actually thought this guy actually understood that had researched the things for 40 years. But now see what he's going to do this year. And I wrote to him, this guy seems to know what he's talking about, right? Because I actually thought, oh, he actually understands, things, I thought. But no. He says like this here. 69 weeks were, he writes, right? 69 weeks were completed when Christ rode into Jerusalem on the donkey. 70 week is future. Like, you gotta be kidding me, So again, he's the one of those guys that takes the 70 weeks and rips it apart from the prophecy. What was Daniel told? 70 weeks, like 70 weeks of time. Did he say, hey, the last week you just need to throw it 2,000 years into the future? It doesn't really, what prophetic thing would that be, So it's just rubbish, right? It's again. I thought the guy actually understood that there was actually, but no. Either people take one and throw the 70 week into the future, or they take the future week and throw it backward to the 70 week. It's actually not that hard to actually grasp, this is the options that they do. They either take the last week of time, which is yet future, and put it backward in time and say it's in regards of was fulfilled when the 70 week was fulfilled. Or they take the 70 week was fulfilled in the past and they put that into the future. It's all rubbish. Like, because people can just say, there's 2 weeks. There's a week here and there's a week here. It's 2 different weeks. It's not talking about the same week. It's talking about 2 different weeks. And stop the bullshit, Like, and that's, it's like you're just sitting there, right? And this guy that seemed to know something and understand in regards to the last week of time and all that, and he actually takes the 70 week and then promote it into the future. This is one of the things where I just was what do you call it? That's a word for it, where you just take a step backward, What are you saying? That the 69 weeks and then the 70 weeks is like thrown into the 2,000 years into the future? What rubbish are you talking about? What is nonsense? This is bullshit. This is gibberish. This is absolutely hogwash, What are you talking about? Why are you saying that this week is like thrown 2,000 years into the future? Oh, the 69 years, they were like, in continual thing, right? But the 70 week, We're just throwing that into the future. What do you think I was? Do you think I was born yesterday or something like that? It seems I just like it's just what is it's just it's people are saying people are just out. I don't get it. Again, I haven't seen one single person that understands that there's two different weeks. Not one single person. It's just there's as far as I can recall, not a single person can see that there's two different weeks. Again, they either take the future week, put it in the past, or they take the past week and put it into the future. It's just hello. Why do they connect the 2 weeks? Like, why can't they just see, hey, there's a past week, it's 70 weeks in regards of fulfillment, and then you have the city and the temple destroyed. That goes beyond the 70 week of time, 70 AD. And then it talks about a continual, future where there's a week of time. Like, is that so hard to understand? So, but anyway, he says 69 weeks were completed when Christ rode into Jerusalem on the donkey. I'm like, if people, this is also the insanity. When people actually also understand that, the 69 weeks, they are, fulfilled. And then they go beyond the 69, the 27 AD, go into the 70 week, and talks about that Jesus was executed around 30 AD, or, that different people have some differences in regards to that, but around 30 AD, which would be in the 70 week, and yet they still throw the 70 week into the future. Like, what is this mad what is this mad game of theirs? It just doesn't. I wonder actually what the SDA actually says about this, because they do have calculations of the 70 week as well, which they agree with a lot in regards of. But I do wonder if they also make this bullshit of throwing the 70 week into the future. Actually, that would be interesting to actually see if they also put. I think they actually do. I think they might actually. Let's see here. SDA 70 week Daniel 9. We have Walter White or something like Walter White. He should have something on it. Probably also some of the others. Let's see here. Daniel chapter 9, Professor Walter White. It would actually be interesting to see what he actually says on it. Of course, there could be in the Seventh-day Adventist interpretation of prophecy of the 70 weeks in Daniel 9. Okay. Just another man. Let's see here. Messiah. There's something in regards to Daniel 9. We also have Pastor Dark. Bachelor. He's in regards to the 70 week. Which I'm just intrigued in regards of what would the Seventh-day Adventist actually say on this, because that would be interesting. Do they also put the 70 week into the future, or do they understand that it has been fulfilled, or do they take the stand that it has been fulfilled and then take the future prophecy of week or time and do it in the past? It would be interesting to see. Also interesting when I read in regards of the. Oh yeah, that's 3 points in regards to the SDA. What was that in regards of? Okay, LNG, there's a AGV, and that was in regards of the festivals. And in regards of when Yeshua was executed. Oh, execution time. There we go. Okay, there we go. But yeah, it could be interesting to see what the Seventh-day Adventists actually, if they also, but again, I guess they do take either or of these things. It's just a mess. It's just a complete mess. It's like, and it took me some time to, and then of course you have the rabies that further fixes, like to try to fix something in the wheel, so you further get into absolutely rubbish. And it becomes a huge mess. It becomes a gigantic mess of a madhouse of things that let's see if we can find the. I think I lost the. Seem to have lost the. That's typical, right? I just had the thing. I'm not sure where it is. Too many tabs open. Is this one? No. Maybe it was, but it's like, let's see, no. Oh, it might have. Oh yeah, it might actually have been that one. I was just reading in the. Okay. Okay, we'll try again. See if we can find it. It's probably this one, and I was just overlooking. See if we can find it again. This was the one. As of course, it was done in a small window, and I forgot about that. It's just, I need a break from all these things. It just annoys me in regards to the nonsense. Yeah. So this guy writes in regards of, and I actually I thought he understood things, right? Because he sounded like he really. So I actually thought, wow, this guy actually has some understanding, right? And he was also saying, well, he had used how many years of understanding this? A lot of years understanding this. And I thought, okay, so this guy actually has some understanding, right? And then he says, 69 weeks were completed when Christ rode into Jerusalem on the donkey. 70 weeks is future. Give me a break. There's a clear transition in Daniel 9 to the time of the end with the reference to the 70 week. So what does he do? He breaks the 70 week and says it's in the future. You just ruined the fulfillment of Jesus Christ in the past. In regards of all the things that was prophesied about Jesus to be done, you just took that and put it into the future. But what is this rubbish bullshit, Okay, we're getting low on energy apparently on the phone. But yeah, it's just, and I actually thought that he actually might have some understanding because it sounded like it, right? But he does, right? He takes the past week and puts it into the future. So so you have people who takes the future prophecy or the future week, put it in the past and mixes it into this. And you have people who takes this one and mixes it into the future. It's rubbish. All of it is rubbish. There's two distinct different weeks. There's the last end time week and there's the 70 week that has been fulfilled. This one is past, this wasn't, it's his future. Shouldn't be that hard to figure out. But again, it's like everybody just takes one or the other stand. And they miss the target. They miss the target. They can't. It's like incredible that no one thinks about, well, maybe there's actually two different weeks, maybe it's actually two different weeks. And the thing is that, as far as I can see also in the past, that there was people who understood that the last week was a separate week that didn't have anything to do with the 70 weeks. And yet now, today, people are like, mixing the nonsense together. And yeah, so this, I wrote back to the guy because I thought he understood that there was like a future. That's like two different weeks, right? I wrote, my bad, I thought you understood there's no future 70 week in the future. There's a week of time in the future in time, which has nothing to do with the 70 week fulfilled in the past. And then he writes, wrong. There's a clear transition in Daniel 9 to the end, to the so-called end. Furthermore, it's impossible to fit the global judgment of the tribulation to the time of Christ. Jesus died for the sins of the world, right? Jesus died for the sins of the world. He fulfilled in regards of, he's the king of the kingdom. We already have the ability to get tickets into the kingdom of the heavens. because Jesus is the king of the kingdom, of the heavenly kingdom. So we already have access to the heavenly kingdom by believing in Jesus. To enter the kingdom of the heavens, we have to believe in Jesus and proclaim him and cling to him, look to him, for he took upon himself the sins of the world. So he already fulfilled all the things in regards to the 70 week. And then the city and the temple was destroyed, and then the future end time week. It's just weird that this guy, again, they talk about, they understand in regards to the Antichrist in the future week, and yet they take the 70 week and shoot it into the future. That's just madness, that people can't see that that's just rubbish, like taking 1 week that was, we have seven week prophecy, right? You take the last week and you throw it into the future. Well, that's not much of a prophecy, is it? If I say, well, in a week of time, there will be, there will be something, right? In a week of time, there will, well, whatever, there will be a shooting star in the heavens or something like that, right? Whatever. And then, I get to day 6, right? And then the 7th day actually is 2,000 years into the future, So that the shooting star is in the future, whatever event you want to take, right? But that this future star that I talked to you about is actually, that I said that would be in a week of time. Actually, the last day is actually 2,000 years into the future. That's not a prophetic thing. It's clearly a failed prophecy, right? So either you're going to call God a liar, or you're going to have to, sort out that there's 2 weeks, That's just bullshit. But anyway, this guy clearly, even if I fixed it out in regards to this, apparently, clearly, people just want to further mess things up, So I wrote this like 41 minutes ago. 70 weeks completed, 34 AD. Apparently, I could actually just delete the 33 actually. But I guess I copied it from another post anyway, just to help some of the... Anyway. I didn't know I actually already had written to it and all that. But anyway, doesn't matter. We'll just write it again. Just whatever. So again, every time you listen, and I listen to the rabies to just listen a little in regards to what they believe about this, and they're just full of bullshit. They're just full of rubbish. Again, there is a curse upon calculating the 70 weeks. Why would they put a curse on that? Well, because if you as a Jew calculate the 70 weeks, you find out that the Messiah should already have been here around 2,000 years ago. And there's not that many options to take from, There's really pretty much only one option. And, yeah. And that's Jesus, So it's kind of, and of course the rabies, the non-believing Jews don't want to lose, non-believing Jews to the belief in true Judaism. They want to keep them in fake Judaism and mislead them away from the Messiah. They don't want the Jews coming to true Messianic Judaism, true Judaism, They want to keep these people for themselves. They don't want the Jews to have faith in the true Messiah. So they're clearly running with the devil and misleading people and keeping them blind. It's very disgusting, and they've been doing that for nearly 2,000 years, So, yeah. But yeah, it's just, someone actually writes, let's see, the 70 weeks are from 437 BC, that's where you begin to count, to 34 AD. We're closing down.